On this Shabbat, I offer to you a few words of Torah. We are reading this week Matot Ma'asei, which is the last two portions of the book of Numbers, coming towards the end and the transition into Deuteronomy. And the people of Israel have been marching. They have departed from Egypt. They have gotten to Mount Sinai. They have gotten the Torah, all the rules and laws. They have built the tabernacle. They've gone through all of these journeys. And here in this week's Torah portion, and you find a powerful moment where at the beginning of Ma'asei, the beginning of this last portion, they actually stop and recount all of the stops that the people of Israel make as they are going from Egypt all the way to the land of Israel. There's all kinds of rather amazing teachings that go with this. One of them is that there are 42 stops, and there is one of the names of God through Jewish mysticism that has 42 letters. And so clearly these 42 stops embody that each one of them is a moment of connection with the divine. There's also teachings that come through the Baal Shem Tov saying that this is the stages of the people's wandering, and that we, in each of us in our lives, embody each of these moments of wandering, and that it is up for us to search out and think through each of these moments of journey, of challenge, of success, all of these different moments. And it is truly a powerful teaching for us to acknowledge each of those different steps. In fact, Alvin Fine, it's a poem you might have heard quite a bit. Birth is a beginning, and death is a destination, but life is a journey of going from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from understanding to fear to faith. Finally, he ends from defeat to defeat to defeat until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage a sacred pilgrimage. I offer those words, and that would be a very simple drush for this Shabbat, that as we are going through this journey of our lives, we have to have perspective, not to look for the highs or not to look for the lows, but to cherish different moments, to cherish the ups and the downs, to string them all together and feel not the separate moments, but the energy of the whole flow of that experience. That is an important and powerful parcel of this Torah portion of Matot Ma'asei. But it's not just about the journey, because this isn't the only moment of time that we acknowledge. We don't just on this Shabbat acknowledge the Torah portion. We're also in a different place in terms of Jewish time. We're in the midst of the 3 weeks that go from the 17th day of Tammuz, that go all the way to the 9th of Av. And if you're familiar with that time period, if you're not familiar with that time period, it's really an incredible moment that is part of Jewish life. It is said that the Romans breached the walls of Jerusalem on the 17th of Tammuz, and they destroyed the second temple on the 9th of Av. And if you start looking back at our history, these 3 weeks embody moment after moment, experience after experience of loss, of tragedy, of devastation that happened to our people across history. 2 of them stand out, 2 of them in the Bible. One of them is that that in the midst of their journey, right after the revelation at Sinai, Moses has gotten the first 2 tablets, and we all know what happened right after is the act of the golden calf. While Moses is up on Mount Sinai, the people of Israel lose faith, and they say, we can't connect with a divine we can't see. We can't connect with something that's transcendent. We need something that is concrete. We are going to make this idol, and we're going to worship this idol because it's only with this kind of physical connection that we can find our way through this wilderness Moses has left to us, and we are on our own. And so there, on the 17th day of Tammuz, what do? They make the golden calf, bringing destruction and devastation and loss to our people. Another story later in the book of Numbers, that it's on the 9th of Av, that the 12 spies or scouts from Shlach Lecha, Moses gets together scouts and spies, one from each of the tribes. They go off into the land. When they come back, they're bearing huge fruit. In fact, if you know from the Ministry of Tourism in Israel, there's a image of two guys carrying a giant frame with one cluster of grapes, because the grapes are huge. And they bring back pomegranates and dates and figs and all of the produce of the land. But as they bring it back, they say, 10 of them, a minion of men, say, look, we can't do this. If this is the produce, imagine what the people look like. They're in these incredible fortified cities. They are going to crush us. They lost faith. This group of 10 people said, we can't do it. We can't succeed. Even though God had brought them to this point, had fed them and clothed them. Here they are in their second year of their journey. They lost faith. They lost focus. They didn't think they could do it. And they pulled the whole people of Israel apart in that moment. One of them on the 17th day of Tammuz, once on the 9th of Av. And again, we see through our history, these are incredible days of pain. And so from the 17th day of Tammuz until the 9th of Av, there are all kinds of different things. Some people don't get haircuts. Some people don't go to celebrations. Some people don't eat meat. There's all kinds of observances people take in these days of mourning and these days of loss and in these days of tragedy. Most years, when we talk about these 3 weeks, when we read and they have these horrid, awful haftarot of admonition of times where the people of Israel screwed up, let God down, trusted in idols, didn't have faith, again and again, that same sort of stuff. Every year, we're supposed to stop and feel it. And in most years, I know myself personally, I'm usually in a place of blessing and a place of joy and a place of life and a place of privilege. Life is going along. I've got what I need. Relative health, a beautiful family and a house, an opportunity, and so many blessings in my life. And so when I stop on the 17th day of Tammuz until this 9th of Av, and when I'm in this period of time, it's to get me to stop and say, wait, I'm here in this moment of blessing, but I have to use my sacred imagination like we talk about at Passover. I have to imagine as if I were a slave in Egypt. On these days, in these 3 weeks, we're supposed to take some time and remember the tragedies, whether they are human tragedies that happened because we lose faith, or because we screwed up, or because we're making mistakes, or because we're being hurtful, we're following our evil inclination, or because there are outside forces like Romans, like Greeks, like the Babylonians, like the Inquisition that is attacking our people. Whether it's inside or out, we're supposed to stop and remember and feel it in our bones, that tragedy, that devastation, to remind ourselves, even when you're in a place of blessing, you've got to stop and feel it so you remember what pain is to the best of your ability, relatively speaking, so you can then act from a place of compassion, grace, kindness, and empathy. But as I say that, in the midst of this year, as we go from the 17th day of Tammuz to the 9th of Av, it feels different. This is a time where we actually are in the midst of plague and pandemic, where we are seeing real upheaval, where we are seeing awful, awful political and social discourse. People are tearing each other apart. People are fighting with each other. We don't know what we're supposed to do. In my house, over the last 2 weeks, the conversations of do we go back to school or don't we are talking about whether it is safe to go back to school. We are in the midst of that same kind of pain, that same kind of fear. There is plague and devastation and danger all around us, and we are feeling it keenly this year. And so it's more than just stopping. It's more than just knowing that it's okay to feel that pain and understand that pain and feel that kinship with our ancestors. because this year it is different because the pain and the fear and the frustration and the uncertainty of what to do and how to fix it is so real. So it's not just about feeling the journey, and it's not just about remembering the pain. This year, as we are in the midst of our life journey and not sure when we are going to get to a promised land. That's how, when people signed in this evening, they were saying, when are we going to get back to the norm? I can't wait to get back to the norm. I'm sitting here thinking, how long has it been since I've seen the cancer face to face? I'm sitting here again in an empty sanctuary because it's not safe for us to be here. This is a different period of time. How do we reckon with it? And as I keep coming to that challenge, one of the texts that keeps coming back to me over and over and over again is the text of Psalm 23. And not just, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, but some of the commentary that goes with it. In fact, Harold Kushner wrote a beautiful book on Psalm 23. So just a little paragraph of it. He said, I was paraphrasing the 23rd Psalm. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. The psalmist is not saying we'll feel no evil because evil only happens to people who deserve it. He's saying, this is scary, out of control world, but it doesn't scare me because I know God is on my side and not on the side of the hijacker. God is on my side, not on the side of illness or accident or that terrible thing that happened. That's enough to give me confidence. The 23rd Psalm is the answer to the question, how do you live in a dangerous, unpredictable, frightening world? And so there's part of the 23rd Psalm, is Harold Kushner that is laying it out, is feeling the presence of God around you. But sometimes that's a little too esoteric. Sometimes just saying, oh, God is on my side. Not all of us feel that. I don't feel it. It's not something that's automatic and I'm going to go off into the world because God is on my side. That's too simple. Some people, it's natural to them. Others of us, it just doesn't feel right. So I jump to something else, because more than just giving us permission to realize the world is hard and painful, Harold Kushner offers a different piece of commentary that I share with you tonight. He actually talks about the phrase, to walk with God in the valley of the shadow of death. And he says over and over again, pay attention to the verb. We walk in the valley of the shadow of death. You don't sit in it. We don't stay and wait and just let it. I have said a few times, part of me wants to just hide under my desk and curl up into a little ball waiting for it to all go away. We can't do that. There are times where we need to stop and we need to catch our breath, yes, but we can't just sit there and say we can't do anything about this. The world's just going to go to hell in a handbasket. No, we can't sit in it. And there's another side of it, because it's not just sitting in it. Sometimes we might be tempted to rush through it, to get out there and just get the world going again. It'll just go away. To rush in and just say, you know what, I don't have time for this pain. I don't have time for this illness. I don't have time for this problem. I don't have time for any of it. Just, I'm going to keep going and it'll just go away. Because that doesn't work either. So we can't sit in our pain and misery, and we can't try to rush through it. We walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Walking is the word. It is the verb. But on this Shabbat, I add something different. Because as Harold Kushner talks about God being with us at our side, there is something different, something important that we need to do for each other. And I have said it again and again. I repeat it tonight. When you are tempted to sit, reach out, talk to your friends, talk to your family, find your buddy. Say, I am tempted to sit in the valley of the shadow of death. Let them take you by the elbow and give you a little bit of ruach and koach, spirit and strength, so that you can walk that next step. All it is walking the next step, one foot in front of the other. And when you're tempted to rush, when you're tempted to say, it's just going to go away, I'm just going to keep moving and ignore it. That's again, reach out, find that buddy, find that helpmate, find that friend, find that love and light, somebody to take you by the elbow and slow you down and say, you know what, this is hard. It's difficult. It is a challenge, but we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death together. We have to deal with this. We have to take it on. But I am at your side. You are at my side. And when we face things, when we face service, when we face challenge together, we can find that place of light and love. Whether it is God on our side, whether it is a human bringing us through that contact of hand touch hands and souls touch souls, whether it's that human helping us not to sit and not to rush, but to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, whether it is human or divine, whether it is feeling connected to community or making contact with that which is transcendent. May we, in this season, as our people journey from a place of bondage to a promised land, as we go through this time, remembering those moments of destruction, those moments of loss, those moments of brokenness, and also feeling this moment of brokenness, this moment of loss, this moment of sadness, this moment of challenge, may all of us both be those that accept the light and love to help take us by the elbow so we can walk. And may we, each of us, find that inner strength, find that creativity, find that way to reach out to another human being, to reach out whether they are close by or far away, and give them a little bit of ruach, a little bit of koach, a little bit of spirit and strength, light and love, a hug, a smile, a sweet note, so that we can walk from this place and find that place of shalom, wholeness, harmony, and peace. Amen. Shabbat shalom.